I stared at the pathetic creature the moon goddess had allegedly chosen for me, and the only sound in the snow-dusted clearing was the snap of my second's lighter and the terrified, wet whimpers she was trying to hold back. My wolf, Kale, usually a roaring inferno of command, was silent, recoiling not in anger, but in utter, visceral disgust. She was filth, wrapped in patchy gray fur that might have once been silver, her bones sharp enough to cut the air, and one leg dragging uselessly as the high elders shoved her forward into the claiming circle. "This is our fated Luna?" I heard Lyra, my intended, hiss from the crowd, her voice dripping with amused contempt. "She smells like spoiled milk and desperation, Riker. She'll poison the bloodline." The darkness in my chest, the cold, suffocating void that had lived there since my family was slaughtered, tightened its grip, demanding I put this insult out of its misery. I took a step forward, bared my teeth, and opened my mouth to utter the rejection that would sever this mockery of a bond before it ever formed. Wait, before the next revelation unfolds. If this mystery has already captivated you, let us know where you're following this story from. To ensure you don't miss unexpected claims, broken bonds, or awakenings under the moon, subscribe and stay close. Now, back to the scene. The word was veto, a formal rejection of the goddess's will. It was treason. It was also necessary. My pack, the Shadowfen, was perched on the edge of a knife. We were the largest territory on the continent, but since the massacre 10 years ago, we were hollow. The fertile lands my parents had ruled were now choked with shadow and frost, and my pack was ruled by fear. My fear, my darkness. We needed strength, a powerful Luna, an alliance. We did not this. "Alpha Riker," Elder Matthias intoned, his voice raspy. He couldn't meet my eyes. He knew what a mockery this was. The moon spoke. "This is the one." "She was found on the sacred ridge at midnight. She is the gift." "She is a burden," I snarled. The sound echoed in the sudden silence. The creature, the girl, flinched, her patchy fur bristling. She was barely shifted, trapped in a horrifying half-state, more beast than human, yet too weak to be either. Her ribs were a cage beneath her skin, her breaths shallow and ragged. She was dying. The goddess had sent me a dying animal. "She is broken, Marcus," my second, stressed, stepping up beside me. His voice was a low growl of pure logic. "Alpha, the pack will not accept this. They cannot. Look at Lyra." He inclined his head. "That is an alpha female, a wolf of substance. An alliance with her pack, the Stoneclaws, would secure our borders. This is a declaration of our weakness. The other alphas will hear of this by morning. They will see it as the final rot in the Shadowfen line." I looked at Lyra. She was beautiful, all fire and polished ambition, her red fur gleaming even in the weak moonlight. She smiled, a small, sharp, confident expression. She knew I needed her. I needed her father's armies. The rogues that had crippled my pack were still out there, and they were growing stronger, drawn to the scent of my cursed land. But the elders had brought this. I looked back at the shivering wretch. She hadn't looked up. She just stared at the frozen ground, her body trembling so violently I thought she might fracture. The smell of her fear was so potent it was making me sick, a sharp, sour tang under the stench of spoiled milk. Kale, my wolf, paced in my mind, demanding I end this. Reject, reject. She is plague. She is weakness. End it. I raised my hand, the signal for the veto. I reject. She looked up. It wasn't an act of defiance. I don't even think she knew she did it. It was a reflex, a last desperate plea. And my words died. It was her eyes. One was a milky, ruined white, scarred over and blind, a casualty of some brutal fight. But the other was the deepest, clearest blue I had ever seen, like the heart of a winter glacier. It wasn't just fear in that eye, it was exhaustion, a soul-deep weariness that resonated with the void in my own chest. It was an emptiness that mirrored my own. For a tenth of a second, the crushing, icy darkness that always suffocated me pulled back, startled. It hissed in my mind, like a snake confronted by an unknown predator. Then it slammed down again, twice as hard, punishing me for the hesitation. I snapped my mouth shut. I couldn't do it, but I couldn't accept her. "Alpha?" Marcus pressed, his voice tight with urgency. "Riker!" Lyra called, her voice no longer amused, but sharp. "End this farce." I held up a hand for silence. The girl, the wolf, was still staring at me, her one good eye wide. She wasn't just broken, she was empty, a hollowed-out thing, just like me. "Take her to the manor," I commanded. The clearing exploded in protest. Lyra's face became a mask of pure fury. Marcus's, stunned disbelief. "Riker, you cannot be serious!" Lyra shrieked, forgetting her composure and stepping forward. "You would choose that stray, over me? Over our alliance? My father will hear of this." "I have made no choice," I bit out, the alpha command in my voice silencing the dissent, making wolves lower their heads. "I am investigating the goddess's insult. This thing will be contained until I decide what to do with it." I turned to the elders. You are responsible for this. You will guard her. If she escapes, if she tries anything, I will have your hides. Now, get her out of my sight." I didn't watch them drag her away. I couldn't stand the sight of that useless, dragging leg, the whimpers she couldn't control. I stalked from the clearing, Kale raging, the darkness coiling. As I passed the pack, they flinched away from me. Frost spiderwebbed on the frozen tree trunks I brushed past. The darkness radiated from me, a physical cold that was both my armor and my prison. I had shown mercy, a moment of weakness because of an eye. And in this world, weakness gets you killed. It had gotten my parents killed. I locked myself in my study, the one place the cold in my chest felt at home. The entire room was carved from obsidian and dark wood. The shadows here were my only companions. They clung to me, a physical weight, a manifestation of the curse the rogues had left behind when they'd murdered my family and half the pack. They called it the Alpha's Void, a curse of shadow magic that fed on grief and power, turning the Alpha into a cold, tyrannical shell of him. It was more than a feeling. It was a presence. It whispered in my head, a constant, insidious hiss. "Trust no one. They are all weak. Lyra is useful. She is strong. This new one, she is poison. She is a sickness. She must be purged." The darkness amplified my own grief, turning it into a weapon against me. It was why my lands were frozen. It was why I couldn't feel the mate bond. It was why I was a monster. I had been ruling this way for a decade. Cold, brutal, effective. And this gift threatened all of it. 3 days passed. 3 days of Lyra's father sending furious messages and pulling his patrols from our weakest border. 3 days of my pack whispering and glancing at me with open fear. I heard the reports. The gift was kept in the servants' wing, in a stone room with a drain in the floor, a room meant for butchering. She hadn't shifted. She hadn't spoken. She refused the food, only lapping at the water when she thought no one was watching. The pack healer had tried to see her, and she had huddled in the corner, baring tiny, weak teeth, a pathetic display of defiance. She was starving herself. Pathetic, irritating. On the 4th day, Marcus came in, his face grim. Alpha, she's changing. Changing how? I didn't look up from the maps, where I was plotting new patrol routes to cover the gap Lyra's father had left. She's cleaning. She demanded a bucket, and soap, and a dress. Demanded. The word was so absurd in connection with the creature I'd seen. She wrote it, Marcus said, looking deeply uncomfortable, on the floor, with a charcoal piece from the hearth. I looked up. Wrote what? Water, soap, cloth, please. I felt that strange recoil in my chest again. The darkness hated this. It hated her. It wanted her filthy and broken. She is an animal. Put her down. Give her rags, I snarled, and water from the trough. Alpha, Marcus hesitated, a brave move. She's also our fated Luna, according to the elders. If the pack sees us treat her this way, it undermines your authority. It makes you look afraid of the goddess's choice. Lyra is already spreading rumors that you're weak, that you can't control the situation. This could be a way to show command. He was right. The tactical bastard was right. Control, not mercy. Fine, I snarled. Give her a bath and servant's clothes. And move her to the North Tower. It's isolated. I don't want to smell her. And Lyra? What about her? She is demanding an answer. The Stoneclaw pack is threatening to break the border treaty. Let them try, I growled. Tell Lyra I am communing with the goddess's will. It buys us time. Marcus nodded, but his eyes were tight with disapproval. He left. I couldn't focus. The map of my territory, with the creeping black veins of the curse frost spreading from my manor, blurred before my eyes. Water, soap, cloth, please. Kale, my wolf, who had been disgusted, was now curious. She did not beg. She asked. She is not just an animal. I slammed my fist on the desk. She is nothing. But that night, I couldn't settle. The darkness was agitated. It wanted her gone. It sensed something that didn't belong. I found myself walking. Not to the North Tower, but to the servants' wing where she had been. The stone cell was empty, scrubbed clean, but the smell, it was still there. Fear and spoiled milk, but underneath it, something else. Faint, so faint. The smell of rain on hot stones, the smell of the forest after a fire. I found it on the floor, in the corner, where the scrubbing hadn't reached. The charcoal. She hadn't just written her request, she had drawn. It was a map. My breath caught. It wasn't a perfect map, but it was unmistakable. The Shadowfen borders, and in the corner, a symbol. A crescent moon, intersected by a weeping willow. The crest of my family. The one the rogues had burned off the manor gates. And next to it, she had drawn a single snarling wolf. But it wasn't Kale. It was different, gaunt, terrifying, and weeping shadows. My curse. She had drawn my curse. And she had drawn a line from the willow crest to the Stoneclaw territory. Riker? I spun. Lyra stood in the doorway, wrapped in a silk robe, her red hair perfectly coiled. Her eyes narrowed, taking in the cell, the drawings. What is this? What are you doing in this pit? Scouting, I lied, stepping in front of the drawing. Trying to understand what the goddess has sent me. Lyra scoffed, walking in. She was the only person who wasn't afraid of me. She sent you a retarded Omega, Riker, a half-dead stray. My father is furious. He has recalled his border patrols from the Eastern Ridge. You know what's there. The Weeping Pass. The rogues will be on your doorstep by morning. They can try, I said, my voice cold. Can they? She challenged. Or will you be too busy playing nursemaid to a pet? She ran a perfectly manicured nail down my chest. The darkness liked Lyra. She was as cold as it was. She didn't challenge it. She fed it. Don't let a stray derail a kingdom, Riker, she whispered, kissing my jaw. You have until the full moon. Reject her and announce our mating. Or the alliance is dead, and the rogues will finish what they started. I watched her go. My jaw ached from clenching. I looked back at the drawing on the floor. A line, from my family crest to her pack. I went to the North Tower. It was a single, round room at the top of the oldest part of the manor. Cold, barren. I had put her in a prison. I opened the door without knocking. She was there. Not shaking, not in the corner. She was clean. The stringy, filthy hair was a cascade of tangled but shining silver blonde. She was wearing the simple gray servant's dress, and it hung on her like a shroud. But she was unmistakably human. A girl, perhaps 19, 20? She was thin, horrifyingly so. Her face was all sharp angles and hollows, and scars. A long, puckered one ran from her temple, across her milky eye, down to her jaw. Another laced her throat. She was standing at the window, staring out at the frozen lands. When I entered, she didn't startle. She just stiffened. She turned slowly. That one blue eye met mine. No fear. Just that awful, profound exhaustion. You drew a map, I said. My voice was too loud in the small room. She just watched me. You drew a line from my family's crest to the Stoneclaws. She tilted her head. Are you accusing my strongest ally of betrayal? Is that it? Are you a spy, sent by the rogues to fracture my pack? I advanced on her. The darkness loved this. It loved the fear I should be smelling, but there was none. Just that rain on stone scent, now stronger. Answer me, I roared, slamming my hand against the wall next to her head. She flinched, a tiny movement. Her eye closed. She didn't make a sound. Are you mute? Is that it? Another broken part? I sneered. I was too close. I could feel the strange, unsettling lack of cold from her. My darkness chilled the air, frost forming on the window pane from my rage. But the space right around her? It was just normal. She opened her eye. She looked at my hand, braced by her head. She looked at the shadows coiling around my arm, physical tendrils of my curse. Then she did the impossible. She reached out one trembling, scarred hand. Don't, I snarled, thinking she was attacking. She ignored me. Her fingers, small and frail, touched the back of my hand. A jolt, like fire, like ice. The shadows clinging to my arm didn't just stop. They recoiled. They hissed, pulling back from her touch as if she were burning iron. The void in my chest screamed in protest, a sharp, stabbing pain. I ripped my hand away, staring at her, breathing hard. She just looked at me, that same sad expression. What are you?" I whispered. She lowered her hand. She looked down, then, slowly, deliberately, she lifted the hem of her simple dress, just an inch. Her ankle. It was manacled. Not with iron, but with a dark, tattooed band of shadow. It wasn't a tattoo, it was magic, a binding. And it wasn't the only one. I saw the edge of another on her scarred throat. She wasn't just broken, she was caged. And for the first time in 10 years, the darkness in my chest wasn't just cold. It was afraid. It was afraid of her. I stumbled back, leaving the room, slamming the door. I leaned against the cold stone of the hallway, my heart hammering. Kyle, whining, heal, she is heal, she is light, she is mate. She is a witch, I countered, my voice raw, but I knew it was a lie. She hadn't hurt the darkness, she had quieted it. The shadows that usually clawed at the inside of my skin were, for a moment, still. The next day, I was volatile. The darkness was wounded, angry. I went to the training yard and called for Marcus. Spar. Alpha? Spar. Now, full shift. We fought. I was brutal, reckless, driven by the void's rage. I was trying to beat the confusion, the fear, out of myself. I left him bleeding from a cut on his shoulder before I finally regained control. He shifted back, wiping blood from his mouth.
That was not a spar, Alpha. That was an execution. You're soft, I snarled. No, Marcus shot back, his loyalty warring with his frustration. You're terrified. It's her, isn't it? The Tower Witch, as the pack is calling her. She's unsettling you. Riker, you have to get rid of her. She's poisoning you, driving you mad. Get out, I growled. Out! He left, and I was alone, breathing in the scent of my own second's blood. The darkness was pleased, but I was disgusted. I sent Elder Matthias food, broth, blankets to the tower, and books. I don't know why I sent the books. Maybe because of the charcoal map. Maybe because I wanted to prove to myself she was just an animal, that she couldn't read them. I didn't visit. I watched. From the courtyard, I could see her window. She never left it. Days turned into a week. Lyra's pressure was becoming unbearable. The rogues attacked the Weeping Pass, just as she'd predicted. We drove them back, but we lost 2 warriors. The pack was on edge. One evening, I was in the courtyard, the darkness coiling. I looked up at the tower. She was there, and she was doing something. Her hand was pressed to the window. On the outside, on the stone sill, was a single, frozen pot that had held a flower, dead for a decade. As I watched, a faint, silver light pulsed from her palm. It was barely visible, like a moonbeam in fog. The frost on the outside of the window receded. It didn't just melt, it pulled back, as if in fear. I stared, my heart stopping. The darkness in my chest shrieked. It was a silent, agonizing sound that made my knees buckle. Poison! Light! It burns! She was a healer, a light wielder, and my curse was made of shadow. She was the only thing in the world that could destroy it or destroy me. Marcus found me a moment later. Riker, the pack is restless. They are calling her the Tower Witch. Lyra is poisoning the well, spreading rumors that the gift is the source of the curse, not the cure. That she's a rogue spy sent to kill you. You have to make a choice. Reject her or claim her. You cannot have it both ways. The pack, they are at the breaking point. I looked up at the tower, at the window where the frost was gone. The darkness was screaming, "No! No! Reject her! Kill her!" "I will claim her," I said. Marcus stopped. What? The words had come out of my mouth before I'd even thought them.
Kyle was howling in approval. "Yes, mate! Ours!" "I will claim her," I repeated, tasting the words. "At the full moon. The mating assertion. Prepare the ceremony." "Alpha, she is a broken mute. The pack will not." "The pack will," I commanded, pulling all my power, all my authority into the words, silencing the darkness for a single blessed second. "The moon goddess chose. I will obey. And if Lyra and the Stoneclaws have a problem with it, they have a problem with me." It was the most decisive, the clearest I had felt in a decade. It was a gamble, a desperate, insane gamble. But it was the only move I had left. The night of the mating assertion, I went to the tower myself. The full moon was high, flooding the land with silver light. I brought the traditional Luna's gown, a heavy silver thread silk dress passed down from my mother. It felt like sacrilege bringing it to her. The darkness whispered that I was defiling my mother's memory. I told it to shut up. I opened the door. She was different. The food had done its work. She was still thin, but not skeletal. Her hair, which she had clearly been brushing, was long and silver. She was still scarred, still silent, but she was solid. She was reading one of the books, Ancient Pack Treaties. Her finger was tracing a line about the original alliance between the Shadowfen and the Crescent Moon Pack. She looked up when I entered, her blue eye cautious. I held out the dress. "It is tradition," I said gruffly. "You will wear it. You will stand by my side. You will not embarrass me." She didn't move. She just looked at the dress, then at me. "Do you understand?" I snapped, the darkness rising, feeding on my nerves. "You are mine now. You will do as I say." She stood slowly. She walked toward me. She didn't take the dress. She stopped, looking up at me. She was small, my chin level with the top of her head. She reached out, that same terrifyingly gentle hand, not to my arm, but to my chest, right over the heart of the void. The darkness screamed. It was agony. It was a cold fire, trying to freeze her hand, to kill her. But she didn't pull away. She just held it there, her small hand, her scars against my tunic. And I felt warmth. A single, tiny pinprick of warmth deep beneath the ice. The void raged, trying to snuff it out, but her hand was a shield. She winced, her own energy battling my curse. She was fighting for me. She kept her hand there, her blue eye locked on mine. She was searching for me, for the man beneath the monster. "Heal," Kale whispered, sinking to his paws in my mind, relieved. "She is our mate." She nodded, as if she'd heard him. Then she stepped back, her hand falling, and took the dress from my hands. The ceremony was held in the great hall. The pack gathered. The air was thick with tension. My warriors were split, half glaring at the Stoneclaw delegation, half glaring at me. Lyra and her father, Alpha Varric of the Stoneclaws, stood near the front, their faces carved from granite. "She's a fraud," Lyra was whispering, loud enough for all to hear. "A rogue spy. He's befouling his mother's memory. That dress, he's damning us all for a pet." The great doors opened. Elara, I had learned her name from the elders, though she had never confirmed it, walked in. The pack gasped. I had seen her in rags. I had seen her in a servant's dress. In my mother's silver gown, she was ethereal. The dress fit as if made for her. Her silver blonde hair was braided back, showing her face, her scars, her milky eye. She didn't look like a Luna. She looked like a fallen star. She looked like a queen. She walked straight to me, her head held high. Her limp was barely noticeable. She didn't look at the pack. She only looked at me. She stood beside me, in front of the hearth. "We are gathered," Matthias began, his voice shaking, "to affirm the moon's choice." "This is a mockery," Varric roared. "Riker, you shame your blood. This is an abomination. The Shadowfen pack, the once proud pack of your father, is now led by a madman and a cripple. You would align with this over my daughter? Over the strength of the Stoneclaws?" "I align with the goddess," I said, my voice ringing in the hall. "I align with my mate." I turned from Varric to face Alara. "You see weakness, Varric. I see a survivor. You see a burden. I see the goddess's will." I turned to Alara. She was watching me, that single blue eye wide, luminous. This was the moment, the claiming. I was to bite her, to mark her as mine. I looked at the scars on her neck. She had been through so much pain. I leaned in, but instead of baring my teeth, I hesitated. The darkness in me was frantic. "Don't! It's a trick! She will kill us!" I ignored it. I looked at her, at this frail, silent, powerful creature. "They say you are broken," I murmured, so low only she could hear. "They say you are a curse." I lifted a hand, and for the first time, I touched her face, my thumb tracing the scar by her eye. She trembled, but didn't pull away. "I look at you," I said, and my voice was rough, "and you are the most beautiful thing I have ever seen." It wasn't a lie. It was the truest thing I had ever said. The moment the words left my mouth, something shattered. It wasn't the darkness. It was her. She gasped, a real sound, a sharp intake of air, and her blue eye filled with tears, not of sadness, but of release. And the bond, the mate bond I hadn't been able to feel, the one the darkness had smothered, slammed into me like a physical blow. It wasn't a whisper. It was a tidal wave. I felt her pain, her loneliness, her strength. And a word, a single word, not spoken, but pushed into my mind with the force of the bond. "Liar." I recoiled. What? Lyra! Lyra was the liar. She, Lyra, border, rogues, weavers. The bond was a mess of images, a torrent of information. Lyra at the border, meeting with rogues. Lyra pointing to my manor. Lyra taking a pouch of dark, smoking shadow. And Alara watching from the trees, a captive of those same rogues. My head snapped up. I looked at Lyra. She must have seen the accusation in my eyes. Her face, for a split second, showed pure, unadulterated panic. "He's mad!" Varric yelled. "The curse has taken him! Seize him!" The Stoneclaw warrior surged forward. My own pack was frozen, confused. But Alara was not. She stepped in front of me. She held up her small, scarred hand. "Stop." The word was not a shout. It was a whisper. Her first word. Hoarse, rasping, and laced with more power than 1,000 alpha commands. Every wolf in the room, Stoneclaw and Shadowfen, froze. They didn't just stop. They were physically paralyzed, their bodies locked in place. The dust motes in the air hung still. I stared. The darkness in my chest was imploding. Alara turned to me. Her blue eye was blazing. Her milky eye, it was glowing, the white turning into a luminous, swirling opal. "The shadows cannot hold the light," she whispered, her voice like cracking ice. She put her hand on my chest, over the void. This time, I didn't feel warmth. I felt agony. The darkness screamed. It was being pulled. I doubled over, roaring, as 10 years of shadow, grief, and curse were ripped from my bones. It felt like my soul was being torn out. I saw flashes of my parents' murder, my decade of cold rage. All the pain I'd inflicted, it was all being exhaled. The shadows poured from my chest, a thick, black, oily smoke, and funneled into her. "Ilara!" I yelled, reaching for her.
"No! It will kill you!" She looked at me, a small, pained smile on her face. The black magic was coiling around her, covering her, but her light, the silver light of her wolf, was fighting back, burning the shadow as it entered. "It is just a shadow," she rasped. "Lyra!" I roared, pushing through the pain, feeling light for the first time. You did this! You brought the curse!" Lyra had broken free of the command, her father's alpha blood giving her resistance. She shifted, a sleek red wolf, and was sprinting for the side door, clawing through my paralyzed guards. "You traitor!" I bellowed. "You were always a fool, Riker," she shrieked back, her voice a half-human snarl. "You and your pathetic, weak-blooded mother. The Shadow Weavers should have finished the job." Shadow Weavers. Alistair. The name slammed into my head, a gift from Ilara's mind. Her brother, the rogue Alpha, the one who ruled the Crescent Moon Pack. He wasn't a rogue, he was a hunter. The main doors of the Great Hall exploded inward. Alistair, the Alpha of the Crescent Moon Pack, stood there, flanked by his warriors. He was the mirror of Ilara, tall, silver-haired, and with eyes like blue fire. "Sister!" he roared, seeing her engulfed in my darkness. He and his wolves fell on the stone claws. I shifted, Kyle roaring free, no longer silent, no longer cold. The void was gone. I was me. I fought alongside this new alpha, a seamless, brutal dance of two alphas protecting what was theirs. My pack, seeing Lyra's betrayal and my transformation, shook off their paralysis and joined the fight. I looked at Ilara. She was on her knees, the last of the shadows sinking into her skin, turning her binding tattoos from shadow to silver. She had healed me. She had taken my curse and purified it. "Riker," she whispered, and collapsed. I was there before she hit the floor. I held her, this impossible, powerful woman, this gift I had almost rejected. The battle was short. Lyra was captured by Alistair. Varric, seeing the betrayal, surrendered, his face a mask of horror. "The Weavers," he mumbled. She allied with the Shadow Weavers. I didn't know." I ignored him. I carried Ilara to my room. Not the tower, my room. I laid her on my bed. She was breathing, but she was unconscious. Alistair entered, his face grim. "Is she?" "She's alive," I said, my voice thick. She saved me." "She saved us all," Alistair said. He looked at me, his blue eyes sharp. "She's a moon healer, one of the last. The Weavers, they are a cult. They don't just use shadow, they consume light. They've been hunting her, binding her. They bound her magic, her voice, her wolf. They used her, brokenness, as a shield to move her undetected. They gave her to the rogues who held her captive," I pieced together. "The ones Lyra was working with, the ones who served the Weavers." "Yes, Lyra planned to have her found and presented to you," Alistair seethed. "A final insult. A broken mate sent by the goddess who was actually a spy, designed to shatter your pack's morale and ensure the curse held you. The Weavers created the Alpha's void. Your family, they were an experiment. Lyra was meant to give them control of your lands. But Ilara, she knew. She drew the map. She was fighting," Alistair said, his voice soft, looking at his sister. "Her light was always fighting. The Weavers dampened her,
but they couldn't extinguish her. The moon goddess did guide her to that ridge. It was the only place she could be found by your elders. A fated one led to a fated place. It was the only way to get her inside your walls. She knew you were the only one who could break the bindings. Me? I almost rejected her. No, Alastir said, looking at me with new understanding. Your wolf knew. Your soul knew. The bindings could only be broken by her fated mate, by the one who could see past the illusion and call her beautiful. My own words. You are the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. I had thought I was speaking of her face, but the bond, it had meant her soul. I sat on the bed, and for the first time I took her hand not as an alpha, but as a man. The moon gifted me a broken wolf, I whispered, pressing my lips to her scarred knuckles. Ilara's eyes fluttered open. That one blue eye and the now luminous opal stared up at me. She smiled, her voice a soft, silvery rasp. And I called her beautiful. She squeezed my hand, and she healed my darkness. It wasn't me saying it, it was her. She was finishing the prophecy. A single tear tracked from my eye, the first I'd shed since I was a boy. It landed on her hand. No, she whispered, her voice stronger. She lifted her hand, her fingers tracing the scar on my heart, the one the darkness had left behind. The darkness, it was never yours, Riker. It was just hiding you. I didn't heal your darkness. She pulled me down, her lips brushing mine, a spark of pure silver light. I just let my alpha come home. I looked out the window. The moon was high, and I could have sworn I saw a patch of green grass through the melting snow on the lawn. The curse was broken. Ilara, I said, my voice thick. What now? The weavers, Lyra. Now, she whispered, her opal eye glowing with a fierce new light. We hunt. But first, she pulled me into a kiss that wasn't about pain or darkness or fear. It was about light, and it was about home.